Welcome to the November 2nd, 2017 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I am your host, Vyse the Bold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
So we got a kind of an eclectic show here. I have a little surprise for the beginning of the podcast here, and I know Lotus has a quick topic to talk about, and then we have our larger topic, which is Stranger Things Season 2. Even stranger.
No spoilers. Yeah, son of Stranger Things.
Yeah, I have not watched it yet. I do not wish to be spoiled, so we're going to be very conscious
we're all the more careful.
Yeah, about spoilers here. We are big fans of the genre and the show at large, so, and all of the stuff it makes references to, so we're excited about this. So I first wanted to mention something. This pertains mostly to me and Pyro, but I thought it was great. So my mom went through the attic this week and got something from one of our early elementary school days.
Uh-oh.
And it's our Mother's Day cookbook.
Oh,
and you
wow.
and I are in it from like second or first grade or something. So I wanted to read real quick. So the conceit behind this is we had to come up with a recipe on how we thought something was made.
Nice.
Okay.
And this was our Mother's Day cookbook to give to our mothers on Mother's Day. So yours is the first one, and it's this is bacon. What you need to make it: bacon.
Yes.
Step 1, put it in the freezer. Step 2, take it out of the freezer.
He's right, you know.
Step 3, put it in the oven. Set the oven to warm.
Yes.
Cook it for 3 minutes.
Quite fast.
Take it out of the oven. Let it cool. Step 7, that's all.
I love stuff like nice.
Oh, god damn it.
The teacher must have
I was fucking
loved
stupid.
this.
I want to try that recipe and see how well it works. I'm pretty sure it's still going to be frozen by the time I take it out of the oven.
You're going to stop on, you're going to be stuck on step 3. You'll be like, where's the warm setting?
Yeah, first I have to find out what setting is warm.
It's like the dryer, like the clothes dryer, warm, cool, cold. Maybe that'll be good.
Oh, is it warm enough? Not quite yet.
Set the washer to clean.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what?
Quite fast.
That's what I was saying, yeah. The key of S.
But then there's mine. There are others of our classmates, and I'm gonna probably post this on Facebook because I'm still friends with some of them. But there's chocolate chip brownies by me. Mine was pretty detailed. You need butter, eggs, sugar, brown sugar, vanilla, chocolate chips, salt, icing, and sprinkles. You can tell I was a fat kid. I knew exactly how to make these damn things. Step 1, get out the stuff. Step 2, put the stuff in the mixer.
I'm not writing all that shit again. Are you kidding me?
Step 3, stir the stuff in the mixer.
All of it at the same time.
Then, like a detail I wouldn't expect, like, a young person to get. Then get the butter stick wrappers and wax the pan.
Wow.
Spread it. Put them in the oven for 4 minutes. Set the oven to 2 degrees.
What?
Otherwise known as the freezer, apparently.
Yeah, the oven's cold setting.
At least I said it was warm.
Yeah, there's a bit in Undertale kind of like that, where it's like established that a lot of creatures heat things through fire magic, but it's like, I don't really feel like doing that, so I just have my refrigerator just set to like hot, because I don't like cold stuff. And it's like, what?
And then everything else is pretty normal. When they're done, cut them into little squares, put icing and sprinkles on them, and let them cool. Then you're ready to eat.
Yay.
I like my step 7 the most. That's all.
That's all.
I should have said
Recipe
comma.
over.
I should have said comma,
food.
folks.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny. It's a whole sentence that's all. Period.
Yeah, we're done. That is all.
No, that's all. I used an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Or I might not have used an apostrophe, I don't know.
Yeah, contraction.
But I just thought that I would share that real quick because my mom had given that to me and it had some moments. So.
Yeah,
Nice.
really little kid writing is kind of amazing, especially if you remember none of that shit and you look at that.
I didn't remember that.
And you like to think you were a smart kid, and then you're like, no, I was
Yeah.
a dumbass like all other
2
kids.
degrees. 2 degrees. Ugh. But yeah, having said that, I just wanted to share that real quick because it was something I wanted to get a genuine reaction from you guys.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I will share more of it with our friends on Facebook. So, but I figured I'd share that just to solidify that we've known each other basically all of our lives. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed
just
out on the recipe. I only got to know you guys in college.
Well, you know what that means? That we should all do a Corrective Consciousness recipe book that we write to our moms now in the mindset of us being in kindergarten. Or
yeah,
whatever.
like still woefully ignorant. Here, Mom, Happy Mother's Day. What is this?
Nice. All right, well, we can move on to your little bit here.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing. There is, you know how the movie theater sometimes just brings back classics? Like if you weren't born yet, or if you weren't old enough to see these movies in the theaters, this is your chance. They'll replay like the real classic stuff sometimes.
Yeah, there was a cool like festival thing that they did for just like a quick weekend to celebrate the life of Gene Wilder when he passed on.
Yeah, exactly, stuff like that. They
yeah.
did, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and things like that, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, the Lowe's theater in my area had a showing of Blazing Saddles, which is my favorite.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mine would probably be Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, they're both great though. You can't really pick.
Yeah, well, it's apples and oranges, but I prefer Young Frankenstein, but Blazing Saddles is freaking fantastic. Somebody go back and get a shitload of dimes. But so yeah, the AMC.
Did you bring enough for the whole class?
So like the AMC was doing on the Sunday before Halloween and on Tuesday, Halloween. They're playing Little Shop of Horrors, the '80s remake, the one that people actually know.
The Rick Moranis
color. Yeah, with Rick Moranis as a star-studded cast. Now, Vyse, we've already talked about this. I know you haven't seen the movie yourself. Pyro, have you?
I have not.
Oh,
yeah.
man. Okay,
my girlfriend
we
is
should
on
watch
me
that.
about this. This is one of her favorites.
Yeah, no, we actually really should watch it together because it's so good. So the thing is, it's kind of like a horror comedy, which is also a musical. I would say more on the comedy side. It's kind of like maybe like almost like a dark comedy kind of, because the basic premise is that Rick Moranis is just this like a dweeb character, because he always played dweeb characters because he can really make himself like look the part. Like, his casting as the bad guy in Spaceballs was the joke. Like, he's Darth Vader. Like, that was hilarious just because. So he's this little dweeb guy, this little like he doesn't get pushed around all the time, but he's the kind of guy who would get pushed around all the time, And this movie was made in the 80s, although it was originally made in I think the 40s or something. But the 80s version takes place in the 50s or 60s, and he has just his job working at a nursery, like a plant nursery, or not. I don't even know if it's a nursery so much as just a shop that sells plants. In any case, that's his job, and the shop's not doing that great. I don't know if it's just a rough time or what, but it also doesn't help that this guy's existence, and I think the shop's as well, is on this place called Skid Row, which is just the really awful part of town, which is just nobody wants to go there, and it's it's just this really low income place that it's hard to do business there and stuff like that. And but there's also this woman who also works at the shop, whom Rick Moranis, his name in the movie is Seymour, is in love with. But she has a boyfriend already. The problem is, though, the boyfriend is abusive, and it's one of those deals where, like, obviously you want to leave that relationship, but you can't because you're afraid of how he'll react, you know? So, like, you're kind of trapped with this abusive boyfriend. And the abusive boyfriend is played by, of all people in the world, Steve Martin. He's actually a rich guy. The funny thing is, he's a dentist, but when he goes out when he's not at work, he's like, you know, like Henry Bowers from It. You know, he's got like the slick back hair with a comb, like the leather jacket, like he's like a greaser, he's like a motorcycle guy. And, you know, and this is like the 50s, so if you ride a motorcycle, you're some, you know, big badass punk that nobody wants to mess with, you know, no matter what. So he's that guy. So there's a couple things going on. One of them, the main plot, is that Rick Moranis, this is kind of like, I think it's kind of like Gremlins, where it, like, you wouldn't see this plot device anymore, but there's this mysterious Chinese man selling mysterious... mysterious, you know, like, you know, the mysteries of the East. Who even knows what this is? So he sells him this weird plant, which is like nothing he'd ever seen before, and it, you know, becomes a character in the movie. I say movie, but I think this was originally a play even, and the woman Rick Moranis is in love with, or Seymour is in love with, is named Audrey. So he names the plant after her, Audrey 2, and this plant is just not growing. Like, it is dying, like, no matter what he does, and he does everything. And eventually, he cuts himself, and, like, a drop of blood falls into the plant's pot, and the plant responds, like, very obviously responds to this. And he's like, are you telling me that you need blood to, like, to live? Is that what's happening? So this is where the movie gets, like, straight up dark, because the plant grows pretty damn well, but you need to give it blood. And it gets to a point where, like, you could cut yourself, which is already kind of bad enough, but, like, when the plant gets really big, a couple drops of blood isn't going to do it. So it becomes, like, the first Hellraiser movie, where you just got to find people and kill them to, like, feed them to your plant. And that's, like, the turn it starts to take. Now, I'm describing it like this, but the movie's, like, actually pretty hilarious. It's got, like, a lot of humor in it. And they handle this subject matter in a semi-silly way. Like, when it feels like being serious, it gets serious. But it's more kind of off the wall than not, especially because every once in a while, to, like, segue into the musical numbers, usually there are, like, these Motown girls that just kind of come by and just walk onto the set and just start singing. But even when there's dramatic moments that have music, but no actual song, it's just mood music, they'll just be around the corner or just show up in the foreground and just start singing. It's like, are they really there, or is this a movie thing, or what? Like, it's just kind of wacky that way, but it adds a lot of personality and charm. One other thing I wanted to mention, though, about the scary dentist boyfriend is he also happens to be a sadist, which basically, like, man, don't watch this movie as a kid. Like, it's not that there's anything in the movie that's overly traumatic, but, like, you know, everybody's afraid of the dentist. And this movie's like, yeah, no, those fears are justified. Like, this guy actively tries to make it hurt. But there is one really funny part in the movie where Bill Murray actually has a small cameo. And the joke is that Bill Murray particularly sought this dentist out so he could see him as a patient, because Bill Murray is a masochist. So
you mean Steve Martin?
Bill Murray sought out Steve Martin. Oh. Steve Martin is a sadist. Bill Murray is a masochist. Oh. So there's this one scene where, like, Bill Murray's in the waiting room, and behind closed doors, you just hear this, like, horrible screaming, and it's, like, nightmarish. And Bill Murray's just, like, bouncing up and down in his chair, like, I cannot wait. It's fantastic. It's really great. Like, that's his whole role in the movie. Like, and then, like, you know, the scene transitions, and he's walking out of the dentist's office, and he's like, oh, man, I'm going to tell all my friends about you. Thank you so much. And Steve Martin's, like, furious because he didn't get what he was looking for. It was really good. But, no, definitely watch the movie. But the reason I bring this up for Reactive Consciousness is, like I said, the AMC was playing it on the big screen. But for the first time ever, like, some footage that was at first lost and then it was finally found, but then it was black and white only. And then later it was finally, they found a color version that you could get on the Blu-ray, but this will be the first time it's ever in theaters. I mean, by that time you're hearing this on Reactive, it's too late, but this was the first time it was in theaters, was the movie's alternate ending, which was not officially released like as part of the movie before. See, I'm not going to tell you how the movie ends, but the thing is, the play has a particular ending. That's like the canonical ending. The movie, I don't know, again, I don't know about the black and white movie, I haven't seen it, but the color 80s Rick Moranis movie went a different way, and it's still a fantastic ending, but it goes a different way from how the original play went. So the alternate ending is kind of back to form with the play, but it kind of takes it and, like, I guess I'll say raises the stakes with the original ending. It kind of, like, cranks it to 11, and, like, it really is a spectacle to see. And with the way that ending works, it's kind of best seen in a theater setting, just because of the way it's handled. And it's really fun to watch. If you've already seen Little Shop of Horrors or whatever, I mean, you can easily look up this alternate ending on YouTube right now. But if you can, or if you could, I guess, have seen it in theaters, that's definitely an advisable course of action. So, yeah, I mean, Vyse and Pyro, you guys have not seen the movie. We really should watch it. It's a great movie anyway, and when you watch the movie, you'll be like, yeah, and when you watch the movie, you know, I promise, both of you guys are going to be like, oh, that was great. And then when we see the alternate ending, you're going to be like, whoa, there's that too? Like, it's fantastic.
My girlfriend would really like that too. Maybe we can all get together and
yeah,
watch
and if she hasn't seen the alternate ending, then even better. Because that's like, it's the alternate ending's a big deal. And I could see why they didn't do it. I could see why they went with the movie's ending. But both endings are just great. They're
Nice.
Great.
Yeah, I
the
still need to
musicals are
watch
great
it.
too.
Like,
is
even just once.
amazing. Like the thing is, like, my dad has this thing, like, there are these two movies I can think of with Rick Moranis in them, Ghostbusters and Little Shop of Horrors. They both have individual moments with Rick Moranis that my dad just loves and remembers forever. The Ghostbusters one, like in the original Ghostbusters, when he's like pounding on the door, he's like, "Come on, guys, open up the door, let me in." It's like the most whiny like way of asking it. It's just hilarious. That stuck with my dad forever. The other thing was in the beginning of the Little Shop of Horrors, in one of the musical numbers, when he's singing about, you know, woe is me and how life sucks and everything. And there's this one lyric which says like about his boss. And the lyric goes like, "And he calls me a slob, which I am." And it's like, well, there you go. It's like, they just always like crack my dad up. So anyway, yeah, that was the Little Shop of Horrors moment. But at this point, we can go into the thing that Vyse still does not know. I only half know.
And I know
Pyro
all.
fully knows. So yeah, Stranger Things Season 2. This is something that I had mentioned in CoreCon a while back, or maybe even Recon, that when Season 1 ended, and I knew that they were going to make a Season 2, Season 1 definitely has an ending, but, like, it didn't tie everything up. Like, you could have made a follow-up to that season, and I was hoping that they didn't. You know, I was under the impression if Season 2 were a sequel season, I'm sure they would do a great job, and I'm sure that I would really like it. But I was hoping that Season 2 would be a completely different, like Halloween 3, like completely different, like an anthology series.
It's
Now,
funny
it is a
you say
sequel
that.
series, but I do love it.
It's funny
Yeah.
you say that because originally, I read that originally the Duffer Brothers planned on it being an anthology series.
Yeah, it's called Stranger Things.
Yeah, but at the time, there were several other series that were doing anthologies. They're like, we don't want to do this because everyone else is. We don't want them to
Okay.
think that we're just taking that idea. So they made a
Okay.
sequel, and I think that's kind of why they left the ending like that, because they could have done an anthology or they could have done a sequel. And
yeah, and the good news is, though, they did do a sequel series, and I really do like it.
And it's amazing. And I think even it's good that you like it now because it picks up after like episode 3 or 4, like a lot.
Yeah, I've seen episode 4, and I'm sure it's only going to get crazier from there. But like, yeah, episode probably 3 is where you first really start to go like, okay, this is what the series is going to be about from now on.
Yeah,
and at the end of season, actually at the end of episode 4, also like, this is the other thing that the series is going to be out from that.
Yeah,
from now
and
on.
the other thing that I think they did really well is they did a good job of like ramping up like what they started discussing in the first season. And I've been watching on Netflix. They have this follow-up show called Beyond Stranger Things, which is you just like it's like the cast sitting together and discussing like.
Oh, it's like Walking Dead versus The Talking Dead.
Yeah. So it's like that, but it's cool because they actually started writing season 2 before season 1 came out.
Okay.
So they already had these plans, and the way that they do the big bad in this is something that you might not think about after watching season 1, but it like makes sense for the next season to be about. And also just the pop culture references are good, and I like that they don't do too many, because I know in season 1 they did a lot, but I like how they toned it down a little bit just because they didn't want to do too much.
Well, actually, you know what I have noticed, speaking of that, they do have some, you know, like, of course, they keep the vibe going a little bit. I understand, like, most notably, like, during Halloween season, all the kids dress up as Ghostbusters. They really kind of, like, okay, Ghostbusters was new. I get, yeah, but they're not doing so many but, like, I don't know. In a way, they almost are. It's just that they've shifted the way they do it. Now, I might be wrong. This might be poor memory on my part, but I don't remember season 1 having licensed music. I think it was an original soundtrack the whole way through. But season two, licensed music. There's a bunch. They don't play the whole songs or anything, but like clearly, like, you know, they hit you with like Rock You Like a Hurricane. They hit you with like Just Another Day by Oingo Boingo. There's
you know what
there
must
are
have
more,
happened?
but I forgot.
You know what, they must have gotten a lot bigger budget because
that was
so
my
popular.
Immediate assumption. Yeah, because they hit you with that pretty early on. It's like, hey, it's actually a track that you straight up recognize other than the title theme.
Another cool
I love
thing.
the synth music of the original.
Yeah,
and they still do it. They do. It's not exclusively licensed music now, but the licensed music is very noticeable. And of course, the Ghostbusters theme, because you know they're just up as the Ghostbusters.
I will say, like, I used to be a fan of Walking Dead, and stopped really caring about it, and didn't really understand the why people like the Talking Dead that much. But after watching Beyond Stranger Things, like, I really like it, because there's some things that they mention that I, first of all, didn't know was going on behind the scenes, but actually just some parts of the actual episodes that were, let's say, like, connect, like, so this isn't spoilers, but there's gonna be things that happen in like the first 2 episodes that you wouldn't realize meant something until the end.
Okay, that's fair. I like stuff like that,
and not in like a meaningful meaning, but like kind of foreshadowing, but not like
sure,
not like meaningful. It's not like, oh, if you understood the foreshadowing, you know how it's gonna end. That's not what I mean. It's more that there's like little things going on that the foreshadowing kind of alludes to, which is pretty cool.
All right, I do like that. Oh, actually, by the way, there was one thing I really got a kick out of, because like the Stranger Things season 1 really did nail the 80s vibe with like 80s tropes and everything like that. You know, like Hopper, the chief of police, like punches his way through like every problem and actually solves every problem through punching, which cracked me up, including saving somebody's life. Punching worked for that too. That was my favorite. But there was a particular part in season 2 that really got me. This was an 80s trope I'd forgotten existed, which was the dismissiveness and condescension towards scientists, because scientists are just nerds. Like, Hopper was talking to a scientist, and he's like, hey, we got this problem, man. And the scientist is like, well, I don't know what's causing this. This seems to be awfully weird. I don't know. And Hopper just hits you with like a 1-2 80s punch. The first punch is, well, you're the scientist, you tell me. You know, go out and do your tests or whatever it is you do. It's like, yes. and the other thing immediately after that, the second shot that you didn't think would happen because he already hit you with the first, was he was like, you can go and gather you and all the other eggheads. And I was like, eggheads, there it is. He actually called somebody an egghead. Yes. It just took me back. I forgot that was a thing, and it was just amusing.
But yeah, it's and again, it's gonna be hard for me to not spoil anything, but to try not to allude to things that happen, but just the connections with everything. And I think the one thing that I like about Stranger Things is, even though obviously it's about some things that most likely cannot happen in real life, it just seems kind of down to earth. Like the kids seem so genuine, and like the interactions that all these people have seems like interactions that like people would have during that time and in that situation.
Yeah, this is something I mentioned on a really early Corrective Consciousness about Uncharted 4, but it applies to Stranger Things as well. Like the characters in the show don't feel like characters. Like, they actually feel like people. And like even little things like dynamics between, like you said, with how friends interact with each other. But I think one of my favorite interactions, and even hints of you could tell what kind of relationship these people have, is Dustin, the kid with like the front teeth thing. Dustin with the missing front tooth. Him and his mom. Yeah. Like, they really got a thing going. Like, it's like the part that cracked me up was there's a part like early in like episode like 1 or 2. No, it was 1 where
when he's
like,
looking for quarters.
That was fucking great. But the part I was thinking of though was also like a new girl moved to school, and a few of the kids are like, hey, she looks pretty cool. Like hey, you think she likes me, etc., etc. And so. A couple of the kids are talking back and forth like, oh, she probably like me. Like, are you kidding me? Psh, no, she would totally like me. And Dustin is like, dude, look at me. Like, who could say no to these pearls? Meaning his teeth, like, pearly whites. And then there's like big grin. And then there's a scene way later in the episode where he's dressing up as the Ghostbuster, and his mom's taking all these pictures of him. He's like, come on, like, show me those pearls. And it's like, he got that right from his mom. I was like, yes. It's little stuff like that just makes me happy.
Also, Lucas's sister is hilarious. Lucas is the black kid. His sister.
Oh yeah, his sister was
nerd.
Like, you look like an idiot. Yeah, and his mom is like, calm down. And he's like, it's true. Like she has that sass thing going down.
It's like the whole season she has that sass, and it's awesome.
Oh, okay, because I only saw her in the one scene.
I mean,
I was
it's
like,
only
this
like
is great.
Maybe 2 other episodes that she's in, but
whatever.
Her sass is strong.
Yeah, she really has that like she's able to pull off that face like, are you serious right now? Like she's really good with that. Like, and the funny thing is, I think she's a younger sister.
Yes, she
so she's just looking up at Lucas. It's just like,
so
man, like, you're really going in that costume.
Yeah. It was funny because, again, watching Beyond Stranger Things, the actor who plays Lucas said that he has a younger sister also, but he just like, I guess in this show, like, he wouldn't talk back to her just because he is afraid of what she would do. So he knows the feeling. And the other thing I wanted to say is it seems like a lot of these characters in the show really evolved because of the actors. Like, they had like, Dustin was supposed to be like a very stereotypical nerd with like glasses and like like talking with like the nostrils sort of thing. Yeah,
and he almost lisp because he's missing the front tooth.
But he obviously, because of the actor who plays him, they changed who Dustin was supposed to be. And like, obviously these kids are actors, so they're playing the part they need to play, but at the same time the director and the writers kind of changed them so these actors would be the best in those parts, and I think it really works out. And actually, I will say this, and this isn't really spoiler, but I will say my favorite, because it kind of started happening in the end of season 1, I think one of my favorite characters is Steve.
The sunglasses wearing boyfriend.
Yeah. Like,
he got an arc in season 1. I thought he was going to be
he gets a better arc in season 2.
Yeah, like because the way they handled him in season 1, I thought he was going to be like, the douchebag boyfriend.
And he was.
That, like,
he started off as the douchebag.
Until he was, but like it turned out he was. Yeah, it turns out he's a real person.
Yeah. But it's actually funny, and because there's now let's say a new high school villain in season 2 who's the Red Power Ranger.
What made me laugh about that guy, I don't know if this was an intentional decision, but it reminded me of another 80s and 90s trope, which is getting like a freaking like 18-year-olds to play like a high school freshman or whatever it was. Like, he looks there's no goddamn way that guy's in high school. That guy's a freaking adult.
Did you know it's the Red Power Ranger from the new movie?
No, I had no idea. I don't know anything about the movie.
But anyway,
that's actually really funny. So you have like a total douchebag Red Power Ranger. That's pretty good.
Yeah, but
actually.
I think it's funny that like now they have that new high school villain, and Steve is growing as more of a person because he's been redeemed now, and he's actually like, I would say he's not the most useful character in the season, but he
never was, but his presence is
he's
important.
not directly useful, but yes, he makes other people stronger.
Yeah,
and that's what I think what his strength is.
Now, I gotta say, I didn't realize that new guy was the Red Ranger. That makes it really funny because he is a piece of shit. At least from what I've seen, like, he is an awful person in the show. So it's like, wow, man. Like,
and there's actually a scene where they kind of show you why, but doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, no, I figured there's something going on because, like, he's the new girl's older brother, and like, but it turns out like because like they both have the same color hair and everything. They're both like pretty redheaded looking, and he always picks her up from school and drives her home,
but he doesn't care about her at all.
Well, not even that, but this one person he was hanging out with, some girl he wanted to get with or whatever, it's like, oh, you're like your sister's running late or whatever. He's like, don't call her that. She's like, did I say something? He's like, sister. She's not my sister. I was like, what's this guy's problem? But then like when he talks to her, he's like, well, you're a piece of shit, but we are family now. And I'm like, so implying that they're really not blood relatives. Like, so somehow both of them, including the asshole, were forced into a situation that's bigger than them. I don't know what that is yet, and I'm quite curious.
Yeah, it's so I was reading because obviously I marathon season 2 yesterday, so we basically watched Stranger Things for 9 hours. And I was curious, and they plan on it being 4 seasons. So I kind of like that. One, because obviously there's more, and two, that they're like, you know what?
There's a plan.
We're ending at
4.
Four.
There's an end. Because if there's one thing that really bugs me about making TV shows, it's like, I have this genius vision. Oh shit, I didn't expect this actually to get really popular. Okay, I'll make more seasons. But then they kind of just start writing seasons to write seasons, and like, what are you doing? It lost a spark of what made it good, because it's just
like Lost,
Yeah.
Like they didn't know what
that's
the hell
exactly
they were
what I
doing.
was thinking. Like, wasn't season 1 like really tight, and then they just didn't know what to do?
Also, it's funny, like when I said 9 hours long, I was talking to my dad about it, and he actually also binged watched season 2, and I was talking to him on the phone the other day, and he said that he started watching Beyond Stranger Things right away, and the host of it says, like, if you're just like me, you've been watching Stranger Things for 9 hours, and now you're watching this. And my dad like said that he stopped for a second. He's like, holy shit, I've just been watching this for 9 hours.
Holy shit, it's tomorrow. Yeah. No, by the way, speaking of the show being 9 hours, we kind of glossed over this, but Stranger Things season 1 was 8 episodes long, and season 2 is 9 episodes long. So it's a bit of a longer season. Oh, and by the way, one other thing
were the episodes
that I find,
about the same length in season 1?
They did vary in length a bit.
Okay.
Like not like it's not like a half hour.
But were they
an hour,
were they
but
usual
like
an hour or less?
No, there was variation. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure there was at least one episode that was like 45 minutes long, for example.
Okay.
Whereas in season 2, I think they've consistently been like 55 minutes. There's only, I think, 2 other things I want to mention. One, Pyro, you're gonna know what this is, but I don't. But in the opening credits of the show, it's like, Winona Ryder and like Finn Wolfhard, and they're giving all the names of the characters, or the names of the actors playing the characters. But then I saw fucking Paul Reiser. What? Like,
who's Paul Reiser again?
He was the Weasley scummy piece of garbage in Aliens, but he's probably more famous even for
Mad About You.
Mad About You, yeah. The
He's the
90s sitcom. You remember the opening credits?
I forget who that is.
Helen Hunt got famous from that show. She's the other main character.
It's like curly hair.
No, I'm forgetting who he plays in this show.
I'll find out when I see him. The other thing I guess that's that then. The other thing I wanted to mention was Oh no, I think I'm. Oh no, there's a chance I might have lost my train of thought when I was jumping straight to Paul Reiser. Oh no, I remember. What's cool about the way they handle season 2 is that the way season 1 ends, you could tell that like measures were taken about the problem that happened in season 1. What I find interesting about season 2 is that like it's one of those deals where if you started the series on season 2 for whatever reason, the opening scene would confuse the hell out of you. But when it gets to the main characters, though, it's just like, here are the characters of this show, I guess. But what's interesting is that like nobody ever really talks about what happened in season 1. But
yeah,
like,
we found that interesting because.
But the thing is though, you can tell. Like, you could tell, especially by the way certain personalities have changed and certain ways certain conversations go. No, they definitely remember season 1. They just would probably... Well, on one hand, they'd probably rather not talk about it. But on the other hand, there are other reasons that they would not talk about it. Like, because like, not everybody knew exactly what was going on in season 1. In fact, most people didn't. And you don't really want to go into that because it was a Stranger Thing.
Yeah, I found that interesting too because, and that's actually a good point. One of the people that I was watching the show with the other day asked a few questions because it's been so long since we watched season 1, so she kind of forgot what happened. And like a few of the questions were like, wait, don't they know? Like, because of the fact that they keep quiet, but it kind of makes sense that it's not that they forgot, because obviously they've changed. They grew, but the fact that they're hiding it because they don't want to talk about it. They want to kind of pretend it didn't happen in a way.
Well, that's part of why. But like again, like this is another thing. Like season 1 was very much E.T., but especially Stephen King's It. Season 2 goes more in its own direction, but it's mainly the main characters, not everybody in town. But in Stephen King's It, everybody in town knows there's something wrong with the town, and nobody talks about it. Like, there's a scene where, like, Beverly, in It, where Beverly is obviously being, like, harassed in the streets. Like, clearly. And you see, like, some woman at her house across the street notices it, and she's just kind of like, and just kind of, like, retreats back into her house. It doesn't help at all. And you're like, what the hell? So, like, Stranger Things Season 2 reminds me of that. Not to that degree, but, like, the main characters know, and there's this vibe. Like, you know they know, but, like, it's very, like hush-hush, kind of. It's pretty interesting how that's handled. And there are also callbacks to Season 1 that, I mean, you'll know them when you see them, but you might not have thought that they would happen. Like, all of a sudden, like, you know, one of the main plots of season 2 with Dustin was a nod to toward the end of season 1, and I was like, oh, that thing that happened, you know, like, that's what brought about this event. You know, stuff like that, like with the thing with the trash can. So like, oh, that's how that could have happened.
It's not clear if this is what you're trying to say, is the thing in the trash can is the thing that happened with Will at the end of season 1. It's not clear if that's the same thing.
They show a flashback to it.
Yeah, but there's no real proof that they're the same, like they're connected.
Okay, fair enough. But as a callback anyway of some kind. Yeah. And they also call back, this I'm not going to talk about, but they also call back to a character that was only really briefly in season 1 that thought was just done. And it's like,
actually a big part of season 2 in a way. Not a huge
part. I know. They set it up in like episode 4 or something, but like, yeah, like I saw that character and it took me a minute to remember who this person was. I was like, why are we calling back? Oh yeah, that one scene that was kind of vague lore but didn't really contribute to the plot. Turns out it contributed to the series plot, not the season plot. Hey, okay. So it's things like that. I do like the way the show is tied together. And again, the way the characters interact with each other is interesting, especially because even among the 4 main friends, it's not friend interacting with friends. Like, each character has a different relationship with each other character. Like, it's not like the 4 of them versus the people who are not the 4 of them, you know, which I thought was actually really cool. And I also like the little things, like even the characters who who came back from previous seasons that you have fond memories of, like Mike's dad.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is hilarious.
Also,
like,
it makes complete sense that he's a Reagan supporter.
that dad is my favorite. Like, he's the guy who's always like, you know, like the kid says shit in the room or whatever. He's just like, language, but he doesn't actually do anything about it. Like, at the end of season 1, he was like the most dad I've ever seen in my life. Like, he was asleep in front of the TV with a bowl of popcorn on his lap. I'm like, nailed. It was like out of a Christmas Story. It's like, that is the vibe right there. And like, they have a similar scene to the language in season 2 where like this kid sprints out of the house. He's like, no running, and he just doesn't actually do anything, and he doesn't do anything about anything. It's just cracks me up. And I also really love the kid's teacher, who has the audio video club with the mustache, because he's like a super nerd and he's able to talk to the kids on their level about D&D stuff, but he's also an adult, and he's like, you know, the kids call him up about an emergency in season 1, and you see he's watching like John Carpenter's The Thing with his girlfriend. I'm like, fuck yeah. But like, what cracks me about this teacher though is when he's being a teacher, it's hilarious because he's so passionate about what he's doing, and the class is not being disrespectful, but they're so dead.
They don't
like,
care. You can tell the only ones who care are the four main kids.
That's debatable. Even that's debatable. But like, it's super funny though, because it's like a Ferris Bueller scene. Like, he takes this plastic brain, puts it up. See this? Yeah, I know it might be gross, but this is the human brain, and even though it's only this big, it has hundreds of billions of cells. Like, dead silence. That's right. Hundreds of billions of cells. The class is just so fucking down. Like, this is hilarious.
And then,
like,
actually,
I love it.
When he introduces Max, like, all right, everyone, now, so, like, open the door to the next person who's going to join us on our journey, on our like intellectual journey. So say hello to. And this is Dustin. Drum roll, please.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's one of those things where like every school did it back in the day, where you get up in front of the class and introduce yourself. Yeah, Dustin drum rolls, who just kind of goes like on his desk, like in his little notebook. I don't know if you hear that on the mic, but it's just like, come on, man. Like, it's funny because it's extra cringe because he's trying to be kind of cool, and it makes me love this guy. But if I had him as a student, I'd be like, oh god, like, could this just be over? It's so entertaining to me. I love that teacher. I'm happy he's back. So yeah, probably the show's strongest suit is his characters. Like, these are well written characters.
I like shows that rely more on their characters than necessarily their plot. Although the thing is, this has both. So
yeah, this is like, I'm always afraid of sequels. Like, can you live up to the original? And I'm only halfway through, but so far, yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch this.
It's great. It's great. I look forward to finishing it.
Do you have any final remarks here?
I mean, that was pretty much mine. Like,
I don't have anything
this
else
absolutely
to add
holds up. Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add, I think, without being wary of getting into spoiler territory.
Yeah, going into details you don't want to touch. Yeah.
All right. Well, having said that, I'm excited to watch everything you guys have been talking about. Sounds great, and I can't wait to watch it myself. I'm sure I'll comment it in the following weeks. My girlfriend and I are gonna be watching it pretty soon. So
yeah, I'll see when I can next hook up with Luminaire. So you might actually beat me to finishing it. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yep. Well, that's the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast about our lives and pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as Vyse the Bold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then maybe consider swinging by my Patreon at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as me on Battle.net, PSN, and Steam.
M.E. I don't get it. He's not coming up.
I like me.
I like jokes. I get jokes.
Mule. But anyway, we'll catch you guys on Tuesday on Corrective.
Until next time, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.